always great to start a video with such a serious title with a happy little mandolin jingle. Yeah. Well, hello! How are you today? I thought I would make a video addressing why the scenery has changed before doing anything else, so yeah. We've moved! And not just to another apartment, to another city as well. In regards to our move, I have so much I want to share with you, but I can only tell you about half of it for legal reasons. So before you go to the comment section and comment scream, "Where was your landlord in all of this?" Just remember, I can't mention the dear landlord for legal reasons. Even though I really want to. Title screen. So let's just start with the lighter end of things, the change of city. I am no longer a resident of Hellerslev, and I never thought I would, but I've actually moved back to Fredericia. Of course, together with Frederik. He is still right in the other room, don't you worry about anything. To those of you who don't know, I've lived in Fredericia for most of my life, and in 2015 I moved to Hellerslev with Frederik for education reasons. And we've moved back here because Frederik couldn't continue at his old job, and my job is here, so it made the most sense. Then there's the bonus of my parents living here, my brother and the bear. We are also around 40 minutes traveling time closer to Frederik's parents, so it's just an all-around win-win move for us. I'm sorry for all the light changes, but again, this is Denmark, and yeah, the weather has its own life here. For the more heavy stuff, the old apartment, Frederik and I were probably a bit too quick about moving back in March of 2015. We had actually decided that we wanted to move in together in the summer of that year, but we just suddenly decided that it had to be like right then and there, because we were looking at apartments one evening that winter. We found the old apartment the first day we went looking, and don't get me wrong, at first we loved that apartment. It was a neighbor who showed it to us, and she was really nice. It was big and spacious. It had plenty of room for both our work stuff, our gear. It was right by the city and the harbor, and it had great parking possibilities. As for the state of the apartment, like, it was clear to us that it was an older apartment, which I now used to find charming, but visibly the apartment seemed just fine. The things we found which needed to be fixed was like, there was some random white paint splatters where there shouldn't be white paint splatters, indicating that the painter didn't do the best job in the world. There was a couple of power outlets hanging way too far out of their sockets, which we didn't notice until after we moved in. There was a huge hole in the hallway carpet right by the door, and the water tap in the bathroom was loose. But other than that, there was nothing visibly wrong with it, it seemed. So as a part of signing the contract, we asked for the carpet to be fixed and also the water tap in the bathroom. And I can't tell you the full water tap story, but eventually it was fixed by a real plumber, and the hole in the carpet remains the same. We didn't really care to go much further with that because, as I said, it was right by the door, so we actually had a mat covering it for all the years we lived there. Anyway, first thing, not long after moving in, we started noticing the power outlets first, and then that we got a lot of splinters in our feet when walking around the floors. Yeah, quite painful. The wooden floors obviously hadn't been grinded, or however you say that in English, and Frederik and I were quite new to this when looking at apartments back then, so we hadn't stopped to check the floors at any of the places we saw. That's something we do now. And it was not just the floors. We began noticing draft coming in from our closed windows, and the first time we had our parents visiting, all four of them said, "Jeres vinduer skulle punktere." I can't seem to find the correct translation for this, but directly translated from Danish, it means "your windows are punctured." In case you don't know what I mean, it's when the seal between the two pieces of glass in a window is punctured, and therefore moisture and dirt can come through. And you can see if a window is punctured if you have little drops of water running down the inside of the two pieces of glass in a window, or if your window starts getting these gray, whitish splotches. Anyway, there was no doubt about it. Most of our windows, if not all, were punctured. When there was no rain inside, it would always rain just a bit inside of our windows. Again, back then, Frederik and I didn't know this was a thing that could happen, so not something we'd look for when we looked at apartments, but definitely something we look for now. And if this wasn't enough, at least with the windows, our bedroom window frame was crooked and therefore wouldn't close all the way. And all of the other window frames in the apartment were just halfway rotten. We kind of figured that that's where the direct draft is coming from, you know, because there are little holes in the actual wood. But hey, at least there was only one window frame which was directly crooked. Just so we're clear, crooked windows which does not close all the way and winter nights in Denmark are not a good pairing. Anyway, I can't go into more detail about this story either. I also want to tell you a bit about the basement. Oh, the basement. You see, we didn't get to see the basement when we went to see the apartment at first. And that's because the sweet neighbor, and I actually mean that, who showed us the apartment, was not sure which room was ours in the basement, so we were just informed that there was a room for us. And in all those 4 years we lived there, I think I can count on 2 hands how many times I've ventured down there. If I could force Frederik to go down there for me, I would. And I did. There were piles of dead beetles and other insects in the corners and uninhabited cobwebs everywhere. Just please note that I already had to bend over to walk around down there, so I would always have to untangle sticky cobwebs out of my hair whenever I got back up. And it also had a lid to an underground well down there which flooded the place once in a while. But at least the windows weren't punctured. Because there were none. There were no glass in any of the windows down there, so all the dead leaves and trash and other shit from the yard just fell right in, right on top of all the things we stored down there. Like, we had to throw everything out when we moved. And before getting into the real problem, no, we're not there yet. The biggest reason I quite rarely invited people to my old home was because it had a certain odor. To put it lightly, it stank. And after moving in, we started noticing our clothes getting like this same certain smell. And after a while, everything we owned just smelled like this, including us. And that's despite of us constantly having at least one window open. And I'm not even kidding, like unless it was winter and we were sleeping, we lived with at least one window open at all times, and most times more than one. When we visited like anyone, we could smell ourselves, like especially if we had slept over at our parents' place and we had a big bag of our things with us. Like when we opened that bag, it would just and I am more than happy and proud to announce that we don't smell like that anymore. That means so much to me. I've been so embarrassed. And now for the worst part. Yeah, it gets worse. And I just want to start out by saying that I've never been sick much in my life. Yeah, that's a great way to start it out, right? Very comforting. And neither has Frederik. During those 4 years of my life we lived in that apartment, I've probably been sick more times than I have from when I was a kid and up until we moved. I had really bad seasonal colds, so that's already like 16 times in those 4 years. I struggled so much with getting the flu in that apartment. Like, I had a flu 2 to 3 times a year. Like that year I only got it 2 times, it was golden. And before I moved there, the flu was a thing I got like once every 3rd year. So plus minus, that is around 25 times I've been sick in a 4-year period. And I'm not talking about feeling ill for a day or two. No, not even with the colds. Like I'm talking about sick with a fever in a bed for at least a week. That shit was alien to me before I moved. Not to mention that Frederik's nose was constantly stuffed when he was at home. And spoilers, since moving, it's not anymore. But what has all that got to do with the apartment? Well, while living there, we found mold. And we also quickly found out that we were not the only apartment in the complex with this problem. One of our neighbors actually climbed up into the attic, which was partly over our old apartment, and found out that it was all rotten up there. It's right over the spot I'm showing you right here. That was the first spot we noticed, and at first we just wiped it off. And then it came back. a couple of weeks later, and we thought, well, fuck, this is a problem. And not long after that, we started noticing that the wall and floor underneath Frederik's work desk started to change color. And just like the spot on the ceiling, it just kept coming back no matter how many times we tried to clean it. We even bought cleaning supplies which were good against mold, but when the problem is inside the wall, you just can't keep it down by scrubbing on the outside of the wall. So this is how it looked on the day we officially moved out. This is 2 to 3 weeks without a good scrubbing. And we left it like that day on purpose because it needs to be checked out by a professional before someone else moves in there. And honestly, I did not want to get down into it either. Just standing right by that corner made my eyes water and both my eyes and nose itch. So I kept my distance. Anyway, we moved away from that apartment because of all this and other reasons I still can't talk about, but I'm sure that the mold, together with the badly isolated windows, has been the sole reason that we've had so many health issues during these past years. I remember waking up the first morning here, and even though we've been sleeping on a tiny top mattress on the floor, I just hadn't felt so good in a long while when waking up. Like, I remember directly thinking, fresh air. We just feel energized, motivated, and rested when we wake up in this place, and I kind of forgot what that was like. On an ending note, I just want to say that I may or may not follow up on this, and I hope you guys will understand either way. I just really truly hope that we found the root of the problem and fixed it by moving to this new place. And Frederik, bless him, he can breathe now through his nose. Anyway, now you guys know that we've moved, and I have a pretty good feeling about that. Let's just leave it at that. So leave a thumbs up for good health, subscribe if you want apartments without mold, and click that bell button if you want the notification for the next video, which will be recorded in an apartment with windows that close all the way. Please treasure your windows if they can close all the way. Bye!